From Porcio, TopVelocity.net. This video is going to go over the concept of the runway analogy to help pitchers understand what it takes to throw, increased velocity or throw at a high velocity. So, for example, here's Kenley Jansen throwing 95 miles an hour. If we use the runway analogy, it's just basically defining how important distance is to generating force, or distance gives you time to generate force. For example, if he lands here and his trunk position's here, and then at pitch release, his trunk position's here, this was the distance he used in the trunk to generate force to the ball. In most cases with low velocity pitchers, they'd hit front foot strike here, and then they would go about half the distance to generate their velocity, so about to there. So they're leaving all this extra distance that Jansen's using to generate force, which is limiting their ability to reach his speeds. So a lot of pitchers get stuck trying to stay in this short range and just trying to accelerate in that short range. So if you understand how the runway analogy works, you can understand how important it is to really try to gain distance to increasing velocity. So if we do the runway analogy, basically we want two jets here. Let's look at two jets. This is going to be my quick demonstration of two jets. They probably look like UFOs more than jets, but here are my jets, right? Jets have to go about 160 miles an hour to lift, okay? So that's roughly, I've heard it's roughly around 1,100 feet of runway that they need to generate that distance, okay? Pitchers, this would be like pitchers trying to go 95, okay? But what if, let's say this runway here was 500 feet, okay? So this jet only had 500 feet, and he's still got to get to that 160. So who's going to have to accelerate quicker? Obviously, this shorter runway here, this jet is going to have to accelerate a lot quicker to get to 160 miles an hour than this jet over here. He has more time, which helps you understand why taller pitchers, more mobile pitchers, can look like they move slower and throw harder because they have more distance that they can generate force through. So if I'm a pitcher and I'm trying to get to 95, I need as much runway space as I can take to generate that distance. So if I'm stuck in short ranges, like a short trunk distance we were talking about, I'm trying to accelerate and trying to get to 160 miles an hour in this 500-foot runway. In many cases, it's impossible, and that's why it's a constant failure the more you try. You have to work to increase your runway, or increase your trunk distance, or increase your stride length, or increase your layback to internal rotation, or your hip to shoulder separation. There's tons of areas we can go in the pitching delivery to increase our runways to give us more time to generate force. Now, it's also important to know if you add more runway or you add more time in your delivery, more distance in your delivery, but you slow down in the process, you could work against yourself. So the goal is trying to maintain speed or increase speed, but covering more distance so we can do something like Jansen, who has this really good trunk distance, elite trunk distance of probably somewhere of 25 inches from front foot strike to pitch release, to him being able to generate his 95 miles an hour. So hope this helps you understand how important it is maximizing distance, mobility, and force through those distances, and you adding 10, 15, or just increasing your pitching velocity.